All right. Well, welcome everyone to the second of two seminars that are sponsored by Groove Barry Coogan, our local cultist group. Very active. We have monthly tune sessions and tune teaching sessions and a whistle club and a great group, and I very much appreciate them sponsoring this event. Okay, so today we're going to be focusing on production of the tune books, and this was from last week's seminar, which was primarily about using all of these tune books that I have already created using the tool. And just to kind of remind you what I'm talking about here, I'm going to actually download one of them again. This will be the O'Flaherty's tune book for the O'Flaherty's retreat in October. And these are PDF files that are just a normal PDF file. They have a title page, they have tables of contents, and then they have a whole bunch of tunes. And the tunes, oh, 1 second here. I have to actually share my computer audio. I'm going to restart the share real quick. Forgot to do that. There we go. Very good. Okay. So again, these are just standard PDF files that have a table of contents and then tunes. You can click on the tune names in the table of contents and it jumps directly to that tune, and then you can click on the title of the tune to open it up in the tools player where you can play the tune. I want to confirm you're able to hear that. It would be terrible if we went through this and you couldn't hear it and it wasn't on the recording. Everybody can hear that? Okay, yes. Okay, good. And then, of course, from here, you have other options like the tune trainer, which allows you to practice the tunes with increasing speeds and all that. And we covered all that last week, and all of that is in the first video. And this week, we're going to talk about how I made those tunes and how I made those tune books and how you can create them and other similar kinds of things using the tools. So the tool it's a completely web-based tool. And just a little bit of background. Now, most of you already know me, but not everybody watching the video would. I've been doing software development for about 45 years, just recently retired. And I also run an Irish session here in San Diego at the Old Sod Pub now going on 25 years. I play a number of instruments, uilleann pipes, Engel concertina, BC box, whistle, that sort of thing. So I'm sort of at this crossroads of traditional music and technology, and I've been developing both iOS apps as well as now web-based apps to help people learn and practice music now for, I think, 14 years. So this is a project. I'm just going to give you a little bit of quick background on it. I During the COVID shutdowns, I was working with John Whalen on doing all of his handouts for his weekly tune classes that he was doing, and I was using an online ABC editor that you could put in your notes, and it would produce a really nice PDF file, and then I would just send that PDF file to John. And in November of 2022, that tool stopped working for some reason, and I found myself in a position of not having a tool to produce these handouts. Now, there are older desktop tools like Easy ABC and that sort of thing that you can install on your computer, Windows or Mac, that allow you to do a lot of things, but they're increasingly becoming a little bit, how can I describe it? Apple and Microsoft are making it more and more difficult for third-party apps to run, and they figured out a ways around it. But I prefer to just use a website. It's just a very convenient way to just go to a website, paste in a bunch of ABC notation, and get a PDF. And so I decided that to kind of roll my own, and that's what I did starting in December of 2022. And over the course of the last now almost 20 months, this thing has turned into a very robust and broad general purpose editor for all kinds of music production, both in terms of playback and in terms of creating handouts and tune books. So we're going to focus today primarily on creating handouts and tune books because that's what, to me, that's really one of the nice benefits of this is that someone can very simply, one second here, I'm going to put this on Do Not Disturb, because you can very easily create a tune book like I showed you without really, if you want to, you can do it with almost actually very little knowledge of ABC if you want. And if you are familiar with ABC, then you can take full advantage of what's available both in ABC and in the tool itself. So the first question I have, just for the people who are actually on the Zoom, is if you could just let me know how many of you are already working with ABC or are familiar with ABC? If you could just raise your hand or something, it'd be interesting for me to know. Okay, so Judy, you're kind of new to it.
I am.
Jeff uses it. Ken, how about you? Do you use ABC? Okay, yeah, you're raising your hand. And Sarah and Jim, I know Jim does. And if you're not familiar with ABC, and oh, good guys here. If you're not familiar with ABC, then there are some very good resources available on the web to teach you how to use it. And I have links to them. If you actually go to the user guide, at the very top, there's a link that says just getting started working with ABC, and there's a link to this site called ABC Notation. And on this site, there are all kinds of demo videos and tutorials that can explain about actually using ABC and how tunes are constructed and that sort of thing. So I would suggest that you take a look at some of those tutorials. And there's all kinds of stuff on YouTube as well, but this is a nice kind of place where they're all consolidated into one set of links. So you might want to check those out.
What I don't really understand exactly what you mean by ABC.
Okay. Okay, very good. So this is not going to be, I'm not going to teach ABC in this class, but I think it'll become pretty clear when I show you what some tunes look like.
You're talking about the system in Ireland. Is that what you mean when you say ABC?
No. So ABC, okay, so we'll start from fundamentals. So ABC was invented, I think, in the early 2000s as a way to exchange tunes in a text format.
Okay.
Yeah, so back then, when the internet was very slow and floppy disks were, 300K, uh, you couldn't distribute something that was, a PDF file wouldn't have fit on a floppy disk back then. And so they came up with a very simple system of describing the notes that are used in a tune and things like the tempo and the title and the speed using just text. And then the idea is you can take that text and you can process it with a program to produce the notation. So,
Okay.
okay, so I'll give you an example here. So I'm going to actually, okay, so the first thing is to get to the tool, you can just go to michaeleskin.com/ABC and that'll just redirect to the tool. And the tool, when you first bring it up, it looks like this. If the tool looks like this when you first come in, what that means is that your browser is zoomed in pretty far or you're on a very small screen. And what you'll need to do is if you see at the top here, it says, want to see the editor notation side by side, zoom out, control minus or command minus. You're going to want to do that a few times until you get the side by side. And it's possible to work with it in that vertical format, but it's kind of suboptimal. So I would suggest, first off, make sure everything looks like this side by side, because you're going to want to see the ABC itself on the left, and you're going to want to see the notation on the right when you're working with it. So I'm going to go ahead, and the tool actually has some built-in samples to make it easier to get started. So I'm going to go ahead and just add a common tune that I'm sure most people know is the Kesh jig. So I'm going to click on add, and there's a whole bunch of options here, but there's some example tunes right here. I'm going to say add an example jig, and you can see that it added the Kesh jig to this text area here.
Mhm.
So you work with all of the ABC. This is actually the ABC, And over here on the right is the rendered notation from that ABC. And I'm going to delete a bunch of stuff here just to simplify things. I have a bunch of stuff to set up the sounds, but we don't really care about that at the moment. And if you look at the ABC, and I'll just kind of go through this one, and then going forward as we look at other tunes, you'll see a similar pattern. But there's kind of two sections to an ABC tune. There's the header, which has a whole bunch of these annotations that generally start with a letter and then have a colon after them. Every single tune in ABC, matter of fact, I'll add a second tune here just so we have two. I'm going to add Coolies, which is the sample reel here. And again, I'm going to take out a lot of this extra fluff that we don't need for this discussion. You can see that there's a very similar pattern here. You have a what's called an X tag. These are called tags, which is it's just a delimiter at the top of a tune that sort of separates the tune. So anytime you have a new tune, you'll see that it starts with an X and a number after it. The actual number doesn't matter, but there needs to be an X, one of these tags at the top. Then you can see there's a T, that's the title. There's the composer. So the title, whatever I type here, so we'll say the Kesh Jig, will show up at the top as the title. There's the composer. Now it's just as traditional, but let's say I wrote it, I would say Michael Eskin here. And then you can see over here, this is the composer. And then you can put other information, like here's the rhythm, it's an R tag. The meter. So I'm gonna mute everyone here just temporarily. There's the meter, so you can see this says this in 6/8. If I had changed that to, let's say, 7/8, you can see it changes right here. That's just to indicate the meter of the tune. And then these two are used to specify the tempo when we're actually playing the tunes and the sort of unit of the beat. And what this says is that the unit of the beat is going to be an eighth note, and that when we actually were to play it, that the tempo speed would be 120 of 3/8 notes. So essentially every group of three eighth notes at 120 beats per minute. So these two are used primarily for playback. And then we have the key of the tune. So this is in G major. We have one sharp. If we had changed that to D major, you'd see it would have two. I'm sorry, I typed A. It's a D major. Now it would have two sharps. If it was an E major, it'd have four sharps. G major. You can also do things like give it. You can work with modes. You can say it's in E Dorian mode, and it'll give you the right key signature, that sort of thing. So the header is sort of the metadata about the tune. It has the title, it has the meter, it has the playback speed and the key. So that's the header, that's all this stuff. Then after that is the actual notes of the tune.
Michael, can I get a question in?
Of course.
Just going back up here, your cue line.
Yeah.
Can you just delete that and not have that up there? Does that work?
You can, but the problem is that in a jig, for example, generally I think it defaults to like 120 beats per minute. But if you don't have it, tell it that it's 120 beats per 3/8 notes, then it's gonna be like 3 times too fast when it plays.
I see. Well, I'm just thinking, I really use this for printing my music.
Yeah.
So,
Oh yeah, if you don't care about playback, the key is you're going to want that there if the tune's ever going to be played, and that would be either if you're going to play it or you're going to make a tune book where somebody else is going to play it. You're going to want to make sure that test the playback and make sure the tempo is what you want.
I understand. Thank you.
Yeah, yeah. I'm gonna do something here. I'm gonna do something here to just strip all the chords out, just to make things simpler. So again, here's the header. And here are the notes. And you can see that there is a one-to-one correspondence in what's in the text here with what's in the notation here. And to make it even easier, I'm going to click on a feature here called highlighting. It's going to turn it on. And now if I, for example, select that G, you'll see the G over here lights up. And if I select this ABA, these light up over here. So you can kind of see how for every letter over here, there is a corresponding note or annotation. So like here's Here's the repeat bar at that end. Here's the repeat bar at the other end. So for every letter or symbol over here, there is a equivalent to it in the notation. The other thing that there is you can see the bar lines. Here are the bar lines. So the vertical character, vertical pipe character, that's used for indicating bar lines. And there are different combinations. So if I wanted, a double bar, if I wanted a bracket bar at the beginning, there's a different way of indicating that and that sort of thing. This is where, you'd have to actually learn the ABC to know what to type for a particular feature. But again, the key is that for everything in the music, there is a corresponding letter or symbol in the text. And the octaves are indicated simply using upper and lowercase. So here's these three are lowercase, and these three are uppercase G, A, G, and uppercase represents the first octave, everything above middle C. When you go into the second octave, it switches to lowercase. So here's EDD in lowercase, and you can see it's that uppercase. If we change those to capitals, EDD, you'd see it would be in the first octave. If we want to go lower than C, then the syntax is you put a comma after the note, and that drops it down an octave. And if you want to go even lower, here we'll say, so there's one. If we want to go 2 octaves lower, you put two commas after the note, and that takes it down 2 octaves. So that's how you indicate octave shifts down. And if you need to go even higher, so on these notes here, if I want to go up an octave, I can put a little tick mark, single quote, after the note, and that tells it to raise it an octave. So again, this is ABC stuff, but I just wanted to, the idea here is not so much about, you have to remember this stuff about the commas and the single quotes, but the idea is that there is this one-to-one correspondence between what is in the music and what is in the ABC. And the highlighting feature in the tool makes it really easy to find individual notes and fix them. You can even click on the notes. For example, if I saw that G and I'm like, oh, I want that to be an F. Well, where is it in the ABC? If I click on it, it lights up over here, and I can say, oh, I'm going to change that to an F, and that would be an F. So there's some nice features in the tool to kind of let you find the notes, and this gets particularly interesting when you get really complex tunes. So and for the most part, that's kind of the essence of it. We'll look at another tune here, exactly the same thing. Here's Coolies. And again, same kind of idea. We have the title, the composer. Yes, Jeff, you have a question?
Yeah, I was wondering if you had like 2 tunes like this, is there any way to tell the player to play the first tune 3 times and then play this second tune like a set?
No, there's not. Short of copying and pasting you could do it by copying and pasting the tunes over multiple times, and
Right.
then if you actually get rid of the X tag between them, they essentially become one giant tune. But there's no way to do that easily automatically in the player. The player is primarily for playing single tunes or whatever it sees in the ABC. So yeah, I want to go through Coolies real quick. So Coolies, again, same idea. X tag separates it, says this is a new tune. We have the title, the composer, the style, the meter, the beat unit, the tempo, and the key, which in this case is E, Dorian mode, which ends up being the same, 2 sharps. It sits on the D scale, basically. And again, we have this one-to-one correspondence between the notes and the notation. I'm sorry, between the letters and the notation. A couple of things that are a little different in this one. You can see that, for example, we have some 16th notes here, and those are indicated by putting a slash after the letter. And a slash just means cut the length of this note in half. and 2 slashes would mean cut it in half again. So that's how 16th notes are indicated in ABC. Triplets are indicated like this. You put a little parentheses with a 3, and then the 3 notes, and then the 3 notes after it that you want in the triplet. And you can see over here it gets actually drawn as a triplet. The other thing is the grouping of the notes matters. So you can see like E, B, B, A, they're all tied together right here. If I put a space in the middle there, you'll see it separates into 2 groups of 2. So that's how you can control the grouping of the notes if you want to change them. Again, I'm going to recommend that you go look at some ABC tutorials to learn. These are just kind of the basics. The key being that none of this is very complicated. It's you have to just know a few things about, you know, upper and lower case and bar lines. The other thing is how to do longer notes. So like if we look at, for example, this B here, that's a quarter note, and you can see that there's a 2 after the B. Most commonly when you're working with ABC, the kind of default is that a letter without a number is going to be an 8th note. And then if you want to make a quarter note, you would put a number after it. And that just says, I want this to be twice as long. If I wanted a dotted quarter note, I could put a 3 there. I'm sorry, a 3. And that would turn it into a dotted quarter note. If I wanted it to be a half note, I could change that to a 4. So you have the combination of the letters and the numbers sort of determine the entire both the pitch and the duration of the notes. Couple of other little things here. You can see that there is a system in ABC for expressing first and second endings, where there's a bar and then a number, and then you put the repeat sign after that bar, or however long you want that first ending to be, and then you have the bar and this 2, and then the rest of the second ending, and then double bar to show the second ending. All of this stuff is extremely easy to express in ABC. So you can get these, before I go on, that was sort of just like a super high level view of how ABC is constructed. Before I get into like how to go fine tunes, put them together into tune books, I just want to know if there's any questions at this point. Yes, Jeff, go ahead.
Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't have a question. It never went away from last time.
Okay, no problem, no problem. Let me, let's see here, I need to do that. And I thought, yeah, Jim, you had a question? Jim, did you have a question?
No.
Okay, no problem. All right, okay,
Well,
so.
I just wanted to say that was all really helpful for me because I really haven't written anything in ABC so far.
Yeah, yeah,
Very helpful.
it's pretty simple. One of the things that's in the tool, now you can clear everything that's in the work area here just by clicking clear, and it will clear everything. It'll ask you first. To make it a little bit easier, if you need to like start from scratch with a tune so that you don't even have to remember all of those tags, there is under the add menu, there is a add tune template. And it will create sort of it'll create that header for you with some little annotations here to tell you, okay, here's the meter, here's the title, here's the tempo, here's the key, some information on playback, which we'll talk about later, and then just a few notes here. So you can kind of use that as a starting point and then edit this rather than having, or copy and paste it from another tune. So there is a thing to just kind of stick a sort of a template for you into the ABC. Hold on a second here. I'm sorry, Jim, did you have a question? You raised your hand.
On unmute. Oh, there we are. It helps if I plug in the camera with the microphone too, it turns out.
Okay. Yeah.
Who knew? The ABC block that shows up in the tool, is there an easy way to make the measure lines line up vertically?
To make the measure lines line up vertically. I mean, well, the problem is that no, you mean you're talking about like having these bars all line up vertically?
Right. I can do it with trailing spaces, but is there an easier way?
No, there really isn't.
Okay.
There really, yeah, because it's just a text editor. It's literally like this is just a plain old text editor.
Hmm.
Doesn't do any kind of automation of formatting or anything like that. It's just raw text.
Okay. And the it doesn't seem to bother it with the trailing spaces that makes those measure lines.
No, no, it doesn't. And it's all this is all monospace font. So yeah, if you wanted to manually like do something like that and have them all line up, that's totally fine. One thing I do want to show you is if you now I like to do my tunes generally 4 measures per staff, but if you have like really long lines for some reason, I'm going to just copy and paste in like a really long line there. So we have 8 measures there, and you can see that like the text editor will wrap the line around on the inside this box. But if you want to see the whole line, this box, and again, this is only on desktops, not on mobile. This box is actually resizable. So you can resize that box to so that you could see that entire line on one line if you needed to. This can be very handy for some particular circumstances where people are working with very long line tunes if they're doing things with like lyrics and that sort of thing. But just remember that if things seem to be crowded here and you can't find stuff, this is completely you can do whatever you want with this box. You can make it however big you need it to be. It just defaults to this nice kind of side by side size. And the music tries to get out of the way when you do that to the best it can, and then it stops moving. Let's see. I
Yeah.
will I will go ahead and clear this and re-enter the cache there. So the next thing I want to just talk about is the chords. ABC supports the idea of automatic chords, or at least showing the chords in the music, and the player is able to play those chords in the style of the tune. And chords are really simple to add. You can see here that they are just a letter between 2 quote marks wherever you want the chord to be in the music. So here's the G chord here, and here it is here. So if I select that D chord, you can see it's the D chord here, and it's sitting on that note. And the player will interpret that chord name and do the right thing. And it supports something like 90 different styles of chords. I mean, you can have D7 chord, you can have a D sus9, whatever. It knows how to play all of the different common styles of chords for you. So again, the idea being that chords are again very simple to add to a tune if you want to have them. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and clear again. So let's go through a very common scenario, a simple scenario of you have a tune class or a session, and you have a bunch of tunes that you're sharing among all of the students, and you want to be able to have a tune book that that everybody can share. It's just a PDF that that can be posted on a website or sent in an email. And I'm going to go through step by step how you would create that tune book and then generate the PDF for it. All right. So once you've actually added a tune, you're probably like wondering, well, where is all this stuff saved? So none of this is saved on the cloud. This is everything that you're seeing here is running locally on your browser, and all of the files that are saved locally on your system. There is no service here. There is no cloud storage. There is no account. One of the goals of the tool was I wanted it to be completely self-sufficient, and I didn't want anybody else's server involved for the majority of the features that are in the tool. So when you, for example, I'm going to add I'll just add the coolies and cache back in. If I want to save this file, then I'm going to want to click Save, and we'll say enter name for your ABC file, and it sees that there's more than one tune. We haven't entered a name before, so it says coolie set, and you say OK. and it will save the file in wherever your browser puts its downloads. So for example, on my system, it's actually in the downloads directory, and you can see it says Cooley set. And this is just a text file. So if I were to open this up, for example, in a different text editor, you can see it's just text. There's nothing special about this. You could just email this text file to the other people in your group, and they could open it in the tool. It would be just fine. And I'll show you that. So for example, I've saved that ABC file. I'm going to clear the work area. And now I can open it. I can open that ABC file. So I click open, and then I go find that file, click open here, and it'll load the ABC file and render it. So you can have a whole collection of these files on your computer, and you can see that like I have, you know, because I've done a lot of stuff, you can see I've got just like hundreds of files here. So if I wanted, you know, I have like, here's a set of 10 tunes. I can load it in. If I want a different set, I'm working on Brandenburg Concerto for Bouzouki. I can load that up. I can open up the chaff pool post. So you can have a whole bunch of these ABC files on your computer, and you can load them individually. The other thing you can do is you can very easily just add more tunes. If you have these ABC files already on your system for a bunch of tunes, like, you know, a lot of times I'll have like this thing, I'll be working on an individual tune, but I'll want to create a tune book of a bunch of individual tunes that I have. Instead of doing open, you can do add. And there's a button here that says choose file to add. And I'll, for example, add Blackwater Polka Set. And it'll just append the additional tunes onto the end. So here's the chaff pool post, and then it added the rest of the tunes to the tune book. Another way to construct, yes, Guy, question?
Thanks, Michael. So could you copy ABC files from the session.org and load them onto your...
Yeah, well, we'll show exactly how to do that. I'll show you exactly how to do that in just a second here. So if you have ABC files saved already, either created with this tool or saved from other services like the session.org or ABC Notation, you can open them. An even easier way to do this is if you have a whole bunch of ABC files on your system already, is you can just drag and drop them onto the editor. So for example, I will take that Blackwater Polka Set, and I'll just drag it onto the tool. It adds it. I will add the chaff pool post, and it adds it. And then I will take, let's say, Emily's Buzz and Green Sleeves, and I'll just drag and drop it on the work area. And what it's done is it's appended all of those tunes one after another. So that's another way to create. If you already have the ABC files, you can either do them, you can either add them from the add menu here, choose files to add, or you can just drag and drop them onto the work area. And this works for files that have a it works both for ABC files if they're named .abc. They can also be named, sometimes other services save them off as just .txt. That'll work as well. There are also other formats that we might talk about later that are more advanced that it can import from other sources, from other tools that are where it can take a different standard for music representation and turn it into ABC and add it to the work area, but we'll probably talk about that at the end. So anyway, I've constructed a whole bunch of tunes here for this tune book. So that's a nice way to add the tunes if you already have them on your computer. And like I said, I have literally hundreds of files that I've used either for tests or demonstrations, or over the years, like when I've because I've been doing Irish music for a long time, I've got probably 1,000 tunes in different that I've accumulated. Here's some from 2005. Here's the Coast of Austria. I've never tried this file. Here's the wedding reel. I did this in 2005, and I'll try it. I'll drag it in. There's the wedding reel, right? Because ABC has been around for a while. It's been pretty stable for a long time. So there's a lot of collections, a lot of ABC that's already out there in the world that you can just download and very easily bring into the tool. But let's say you are trying to construct a set of tunes and you don't have the ABCs already on your computer and you need to go get them from somewhere. So there's a bunch of different ways to get the ABC for a tune. Guy mentioned about the session.org. So the session.org, I'm sure most of you are familiar with the site. You know, it has a discussion group, so a lot of people are familiar with the discussion groups, but it has this great tunes collection. So you click on tunes, and then you can type any tune name you want. So if I wanted the wedding reel, I could type the wedding reel, and it would give me a whole bunch of answers here. And I think this is one of those. I think this is one of those tunes where I think the wedding, there's a different name for the wedding reel. I shouldn't have picked the wedding reel. Let's do a different one. Because the wedding reel is one of those tunes where it's like, that's not actually the name of the tune. Let's do Christmas Eve.
It's McLeod's.
Oh, Miss McLeod's. Okay, that's good. McLeod's. Okay, so here's Miss McLeod's. Comes up with the first one. You click on that, and it gives you a bunch of versions of Miss McLeod's. And the way the session.org works is anybody can add a new version of a tune. So you have to ask yourself, well, which is the best one? Well, oftentimes the first one will be pretty good. It's either been entered originally by Jeremy. He's the one that runs the site, you know, 23 years ago. But you can kind of look through these and find one that seems reasonable. And if you look here on the top, there's a tab that says ABC. And you can click that, and you have a couple of options. You could download it. So I'll just download it. And I'll download the ABC. And that'll actually save that file now in my downloads directory. So if I go to my downloads directory, you'll see there's a file there called Miss McLeod's. And then I could open that file from the tools. So we'll go to downloads, Miss McLeod's, and we have the tune. The other way to do it, and this is most often how I do it. So I'll be sitting there, let's say I wanted to make a set with Miss McLeod's, Made Behind the Bar, and the Merry Blacksmith. Okay, so I've got Miss McLeod's, and I find it easier just to have the tool open in one tab, and then the session.org open in another tab. And instead of, I'm going to go ahead and just reload this Miss McLeod's page here. Instead of saving the ABC, I might want the ABC. I might want to actually save the ABC. I might want that tune in ABC. But another way to do it is if you're on the ABC tab on the session, there's an option for copy ABC, and it'll just copy it to the clipboard, and you can go into the ABC tools, and then you can do a paste, and it'll paste the tune into the ABC area. And I kind of like to do it that way, unless I'm specifically want to save the ABC for a tune from the session. So now let's say we'll do Made Behind the Bar. And we'll just take the first version. So we click on ABC, copy ABC, come back over here, paste it in. So now we have Miss McLeod's Made Behind the Bar. And finally, I'll find the Merry Blacksmith. And this time I'll take the second one. ABC, copy ABC, back to the tool, just click in the editor and paste it in. So now we have the three tunes. So that's one way. If you're using this, if you like to use the session.org, if you're familiar with that and you want to find some versions of the tunes, that's a very common way that people would create sets of tunes. And of course, you could be any site that has ABCs on them. Session.org has got something like 45,000 tunes on it, so it's quite robust. And then at that point, I would just save it. I would say, okay, I'm going to save it. This is the Miss McLeod set. And then later on, let's say I had come back later and I had came into the tool new. I could then I could just drag and drop it on to get it into the tool, or I could open it, and that would load it back in, and I can continue working on it. Yes, Guy.
I'm probably getting ahead of you on this, but on playback, will it just go from the first tune to the next tune to the next tune once through?
No, so the player plays when you hit the player. When you click play at this point, you're gonna see you have the tune, one tune, and then you have all of the tunes in the tune book here. You can choose between them, and or you can use these arrows, and it only plays what's on. It only plays the one tune, and
Gotcha.
it'll follow whatever repeats that are in the tune. And if you want the tune to repeat, you can click the little repeat arrow here
Okay.
on the player, and it'll just loop through the tune. It doesn't. There's no sequencing of the tunes through the tune book in the player.
Okay. Thanks.
Yeah, no problem. Okay, so that's a very common way of assembling a bunch of tunes. And, you know, at this point, it's almost like you don't have to know anything about ABC. If you just wanted to, you could just send this out to other people and they could open it in the tool and they would be able to get the notation. One other thing in the tool is, this gets hidden behind the video here, but if you click this arrow in the corner here, it will give you a nice full screen view of all of the tunes loaded, so you can kind of get a big picture look at it. That can be kind of handy. Another way to get tunes into the tool is, and again, I'll go ahead and clear, is there's actually, I have a tune search engine that's built into the tool itself, and it's actually using a database of tunes that came from the session.org originally. There are two of them. So if you look here, there's search and add tunes. If you click on that, you get this little search box. And this is very much like the session.org. For example, we type Miss McLeod's, we'll just give it a few letters here. And you have some options like first variation, start of title, chords. In this case, I'm only looking for reels, and I can search. And now it's going to give me all the tunes that start with Miss Mick. And then I have a couple of options here. I could say add results to the tune book, and in which case it'll take all of this ABC. And if we go back to the tune book here, you'll see we've got all of those tunes all sort of automatically added to the ABC. But instead, what I'm going to do is I'm going to do add, search and add tunes. Kind of restrict it a little bit better. We'll say search, finds Miss McLeod's. And what I can do is I can treat this very much like, I can literally copy and paste this. So I can just go ahead and copy that text out, copy it. I can close this, and I can paste it. That's another way of getting the tunes in. The beauty of it is that it's a full scrape of the session.org. So it sort of saves you having to go to the session.org. The session.org has some nicer, probably some nicer filtering. If I was only interested in versions of, for example, Miss McLeod's, and I was only interested in versions that had chords, I could check that box and search, and it didn't find any. So this database doesn't have any versions of it with chords. But let's say I said the Mary Blacksmith. And it found a version of the Mary Blacksmith with chords, and I can go ahead and add that result to the tune book. You can also get to this add the search feature just by clicking where it says search for tunes right here. Brings up the same dialogue. There's two different collections in here. The first was from this guy, Gavin Hennigan, who was very generous in providing this collection of tunes. He originally had it and approached me about how he could search through his own database of tunes, and then he let me include them in directly in the tool. And these are actually these are not pulled from the internet. It's not calling a search engine. The entire database is actually loaded into your browser, and then it searches inside the database locally. So, for example, in Gavin's, we could say the Mary Blacksmith. And we'll just search, and we can add the result to the tune book. And then we'll say Miss McLeod's. We'll add results to tunebook, and then we'll say it was made behind the bar. Yeah, and there's a bunch here. We can also edit this down to just the ones that we want until we have exactly what we want added to the tunebook. Then we could add it to the tunebook. And now we have our 3 tunes here. So just an alternative, if you don't want to go to the session.org, I don't know if any of you have actually used this. There's an app that's for the phones now, and it's this folkfriend.app. Let me go to it, which is a website. And this is one of those things that's like TunePal, where you can literally play your tune and it'll identify the tune. And the database that they use for that website is a scrape of the session.org, and is an open source database. And I contacted them when I was doing the search and add tunes feature, and I said, can I use your database of tunes? And they said, oh, it's totally open source. Go to this GitHub site and you can download it. And it has 45,000 tunes in it, and it's literally a scrape of all of the versions of tunes at a particular time that were from the session.org. And so what that means is, if you're looking for cache, like if we go to the session.org and search for cache, there are 28 settings of the cache here. And if we go into the tool and use the FolkFriend app, and we'll set the maximum number of results to 100, and I'll just say jigs, you'll see, okay, so it got 8. Oh, I'm sorry, it said only, let me do that again. I had to check only return first variation found. But here I see it found like every single thing that had cache in it, right? So it really is a full-blown scrape of the session.org. And by getting more, getting a little bit more specific in your searches here, you can kind of narrow it down to just what you're looking for. Again, you don't have to use the search engine that's built into the tool, but I found it to be very convenient than having to always go out to the session.org when I want to find a tune. And because the session.org is a crowdsourced website and the collection is completely crowdsourced, some of those versions are great and some of those versions are not so great. So you're going to have to look through them, maybe load up a bunch of them into the tool, and then delete the ones that that you don't like, or keep the ones that you do want to like, that you do like. Okay, so that's the easiest ways of actually finding ABC tunes and getting them into the tool. Before I show you some features on sort of rearranging the tunes and that sort of thing, are there any questions I can answer at this point? No? Okay, very good. So some of the things you can do here is, let's say, for example, I've got all these tunes, and I'm going to add a couple more tunes to it just using the add dialog here. We're going to add an example hornpipe that's going to be Alexander's. I'll add a Bach 2-part invention and a Bach organ fantasia. So I've got 6 tunes now in the tune book, and let's say I want to get rid of these. Let's say the 2-part invention. I could go find it in the ABC right here. I can say, okay, well, where is it? You can search. You can do like Control F and say Bach, and it'll find the tune in the ABC, and then I'd have to select it, because again, it's just text. I'd have to select it, and then I could delete it. Okay, I mean, that's one way to do it. There's actually an easier way. If you go into Add, there's an option here that says delete tunes from the tune book, and it'll list all the tunes in the tune book, and you can just click on the one that you want to get rid of, and you can click delete, and it'll delete that one tune from the tune book. And you can delete one tune or all the tunes using that feature. So that's a nice way of doing it. If we wanted to change the order, so here's the current order of the tunes: Mary Blacksmith's, Miss McLeod's, Made Behind the Bar, Alexander's. If I wanted to move Alexander's to the top, I can just move Alexander's to the top. Put Miss McLeod's at the bottom, say OK. And now you'll see we have Alexander's at the top, and we have Miss McCloud's at the bottom. So it's very, very easy to move the tunes around in the tune book. So for example, let's go ahead and get rid of the Fantasia. I just go to Add, Delete Tunes from Tune Book, click on Fantasia, delete. And make sure that I really wanted to do that. Okay, and now it's gone. So those are very useful tools for rearranging the tunes. Okay, so at this point, let's say this is our tune book. We have our 4 tunes in the tune book, and we want to create a PDF file that we want to send to the other people. The simplest way to do this, and again, now this is where we just want to send them the sheet music. We don't really care about the playing of it. We'll talk about the making them automatically play and that sort of thing next. But the simplest case is where you have a bunch of tunes and you want to send just a PDF of the notation. They're going to physically print these things out and they're going to put them on music stands or whatever and read them. All you have to do at this point, and I'm going to go ahead and save this set just so we have it, is you can just click Export PDF. And this looks a lot like any other print dialog. Actually, yeah, no, we'll talk about this first. So this is just like any other print dialog. What paper size do you want his letter in A4? Do you want it to be portrait or landscape orientation? Do you want it to put one tune on each page in the PDF, or do you want it to try to have it put as many tunes as it can on a page? And it won't. It generally tries to. It'll generally try to put. It'll try to avoid splitting a tune between the pages. If it has to split a tune to a new page, it'll try to put it at the top of the next page. We'll just leave it at 1 tune per page, and we'll talk about some of these other options in a bit. Leave it at the simplest, 1 tune per page. So we're going to get Alexander's on the first page, Mary Blacksmith on the second page. Do you want a page number? So we'll say we'll put the page number at the bottom center. And some people don't want a page number on the first page. And we'll talk about this in a second. So simplest case, so we're going to want 1 tune per page. We want a page number, bottom center. We just click OK. Give it a name, say Alexander's set. And it'll go off and it will generate that PDF for you. And there it is. And this is now a PDF file. You can see it's got 1 tune per page and it has the page numbers at the bottom. And that file will generally be in your downloads directory. If it's not, some browsers generally, when you actually know for the PDFs, they always will be in they always will be in your downloads directory. So you can then find that file, and then if I double click on that file and let's say open it in Adobe Acrobat, you can see it's just a PDF. There's nothing special about this. And that's kind of like the simplest case. I mean, for example, for the work I was doing for John, where I just needed single page handouts, that's all I needed. I just needed to be able to create one of these. Nobody was playing these tunes. He was just sending out the PDFs for people so that they could see the notes and play along with it. So, for just like simple handouts, that's the easiest way to do it. Where things get, you go ahead.
Why do you put set after on the contents? You say Alexander.
I do that just automatically. You can change it. I try to come up with a suggested name. If you don't have a name if you haven't already named, like if I start from scratch, I'm going to just copy these. I'm going to delete everything. And if I paste these in, there's no name associated with this collection of tunes yet. So if I have a single tune, if I were to just have a single tune, like Coolies, and I would say save, it suggests the file name. So it suggests coolies.abc.
Okay.
You can tune just to one, Coolies, Judy's version.
But but the word set you
Yeah.
have after each of your titles.
I do that I do that as the suggested name when there are more than one, if there's no name already for the tune book.
Oh,
And there's, yeah, so if there's like right now there's no name for the tune book and you want to save it, it gives you a suggested name.
Okay.
I just put on the, if I see that there's more than one tune in the tune book, in the collection, and there hasn't already been a saved name for it, I take the name of the first tune and then I add set to it. And you can
Okay.
change this. You can say, oh, this is my, this is the, House, House of Ireland, tune book.
Okay.
Yeah, totally editable. I just had to come up with a placeholder. It's like,
Okay.
here's something for you. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Thank you.
yeah, sure. Let's see. So, right. So that's the simplest case. It's very often, if you just want to like send someone a tune, you might say, okay, I'm going to go and I'm going to add. We'll search and add tunes. We'll say, let's say Green Mountain. Here's the Green Mountain. I'm going to just delete all the others except the first one. We'll add it. And then I'll just export the PDF, leave everything. And it keeps, whatever you set the last time, it leaves it alone. So it'll just be the same, Green Mountain PDF. And there you have the PDF. This is like the simplest case of making a handout from a PDF. And I think it's what a lot of people do with this. They don't care about playback. They just want a PDF. They want to put that PDF on their phone, or they want to email it to somebody. Sort of taking things to the next level, and we'll go back and talk about more things you can do with the ABC to make it interesting. But the next level is how to make the actual tune books that we talked about last week, that have the title page, the table of contents, and can play the tunes themselves. So I'm going to go ahead and open back up that collection of tunes, the 4 tunes we had. And you can see when it loads in, it actually puts the tune name here. And if we were to save this again, actually I'm going to show you what happens. So we've already got this in our downloads directory as alexanderset.abc. If we save it again, even with the same name, the browser's not going to blow away your old version. It's going to save it with a new name. And if we look here, you'll see it has Alexander Set and then has the parentheses 1. And if I save it again, it'll be parentheses 2. So it'll never overwrite your old files. You never have to worry about losing the files you created before. And it's the same way with the PDFs. If you create another PDF with the same name and that name already exists in the downloads directory, you'll find the same name, parentheses 1.pdf, parentheses 2.pdf, and that sort of thing. So you're never in danger of damaging your existing ABC files when doing a save. So to take this to the next level, and I'm going to just clean these up a little bit here. I'm going to get rid of some of the, just so that they're all kind of, this is kind of generic, like what would come out of the session.org. And we'll save that. And I do saves all the time, to create, interim versions. The next level is we want to take the same thing. We want to create another tune book, but we want it to be one of those tune books that has a title page, has a table of contents, and has an index. And it doesn't matter if it's 1 tune or 1,000 tunes, it works exactly the same way. So now we're going to go into Export PDF. And there's a button here that says Inject PDF Tunebook Features. If you click on that, you get this dialog. It's got a lot of information on it, but it's pretty self-explanatory. You can pick a quality level. The PDF files I create can be kind of big just because of the technology that I'm using to create the PDFs. You can leave that alone until you get to really big tune books, like hundreds or like several hundred tunes. Just leave that alone. This just says if you have multiple tunes on a page, how much space is between them. But the real important things here are this thing, title page title. And the idea is that if you actually just want a title page, you put something in that box. So I'll say, we'll say a House of Ireland set, House of Ireland tune book. And that'll create a title page that says House of Ireland tune book. If you want a subtitle on it, like the date, you could say created 8 June 2024. That'll put a subtitle below the title on the title page. If you don't want a title page at all, you can just delete the title page title. And you'll see here, it says here, no title page will be included. So it tells you, it's like, there's not going to be a title page in this, but I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to have it have a title page. If I want a table of contents, I just put it, this is what's going to be at the top of the table of contents. If I don't want a table of contents, I can delete that and it'll just say no table of contents will be included. But I want a table of contents, so I'll have it say table of contents. All of these work the same way. If I want an index, I just put whatever I want at the top of the index to appear there. So we'll just leave it at default. And again, if it's take that away, it'll say no index will be included. I can have page headers and page footers. So this is going to be one of those tune books that plays. So I kind of want to remind people that they can click the title of the tune to play. And so this is going to appear on the bottom. This footer will appear on the bottom of every page that has a tune on it. The headers and footers do not appear on the title page, table of contents, or index pages. They're just on the tune pages. So we'll leave that alone. We'll have no header. We'll have a footer. It says click the title to play. And then here's where things get kind of fun. If you want to have it so that they can play the tunes by just clicking the title, you just need to click this box. It says add playback links to each tune to allow playing the tune by clicking the tune title. Pretty self-explanatory. And after that, you can select which instruments you want the tune book to use when they play the tunes. So for example, right now we have these different sound fonts, and the sound fonts are essentially entirely separate collections of sounds. So the piano sound in Fluid is a little different from the piano sound in Musing Kite, which is a little different than Fat Boy. These are just like, I always like to explain them as being like different synthesizer manufacturers back in the 80s, where Roland, Yamaha, Technics, and Korg all made synthesizers. But if you pick the piano on the Yamaha synthesizer, it would sound a little different than the piano on the Roland synthesizer. So you can try these different ones out for your instruments and find the one that you like. I happen to like the Fat Boy sound font just because I like the piano sound in it. Then you pick your instrument that you want the tunes to play. This is the melody instrument. And there are like 134 different instruments you can pick for the melody. I'll say, in this case, I will say, we'll just leave it at vibraphone. That's kind of cool. If there are, if you have chords and it's going to do the backup for the chords when you play the tunes, you can pick which instrument you want to use for the bass. I kind of describe the backup as boom chick. So you have the booms and the chicks. The booms are the bass. You can pick your bass instrument. So we could have it be like a fretless bass or whatever we want. And you can have a volume. And volumes, they go from, this is a throwback to MIDI, they go from 0, which is silent, to 127, which is maximum volume. It's set kind of in the middle. And then you have the instrument that's going to be used for the chicks and the boom chick. So we'll just leave it at piano. And I'm going to uncheck these. These have to do with whether or not the fonts that are, if I actually want the tune book, when the tunes are played, to have my Comic Sans font, I could check this and it will make sure that all the fonts that are required so that they see what I see as far as the fonts, you can check that box. And and then we have this, we'll talk about QR codes later. I'm going to go ahead and turn these two things off. The QR code just allows the tune book to have at the very end, you could have a QR code that someone could scan with their phone and it would take them either to the contents of the tune book if it's small enough, or it could take it to any website you want, but I won't use that for now. So I've set this up so that it's going to have a title page that says House of Ireland Tune Book with a subtitle created 8 June 2024. It will have a table of contents and it'll say a table of contents. Matter of fact, just to make it clear, I'll say my table of contents and I'll say my index. Okay. So these are the headers that will be at the top of the table of contents and the index. And this will be what's in the footer. Click the title to play. And we say OK. And what you'll notice is back here in the ABC, it's added a bunch of text at the top of the ABC. And this is text that is only used by my tool when it's generating the ABC, when it's generating PDF files. And it's formatted. One of the things in ABC is that any line that starts with a single % sign is considered a comment. So if you were to bring this file with these additional annotations into any other tool, like Easy ABC or ABC Navigator, they would ignore all this information. This is information that is privately used by my tool to set up all of the features that it's going to put into a PDF file. And I'm going to go ahead and cancel the actual export, and just to show you these, you can see how there's kind of a one-to-one correspondence between what we typed in those boxes for like add title and add TOC and all that. You don't, for the most part, you don't actually have to care about these, all of this stuff that's in this area here, because the thing that handles the PDF features will manage that for you. So, I mean, you can certainly edit this. You could say, you know, my table of contents, you could change that to your table of contents. There's nothing special about this. It's just more text, but it's used when the tool does the PDF generation to inform it as to the additional features that we want to be added to the PDF tunebook. And when you go back into this inject PDF tunebook features, it will read that section and it will repopulate this with whatever it sees there. And it does that by looking at the text that's between the start of PDF tunebook features and end of PDF tunebook features. And again, you know, you could edit it here if you want, or you could edit it directly in the ABC. It's exactly the same. It used to be that you would have to manually add all this stuff to create a tunebook with all these features, and I've automated that for you with this dialogue. And I've tried to make it as easy as possible so that you literally don't have to care about the contents of this. All you have to do is just open this dialogue, type the things you need, and it'll take care of it for you. So now we have this tunebook, and I'm going to just save it with those additional annotations. We'll just say, you know, with PDF. So with those entered, so normally it'd be like, you know, the first time you would bring your collection in and you wanted to set up all of these features, you would do this probably once, and it would add that block at the top. And then after that, you'd probably never click that again unless you want to actually change the title. Or you might be more tempted to just change the title. You know, once you have this information at the top of the file, you would probably just change it. You know, if you needed to change the date, you would just change the date directly here. And you could say, well, no, it's actually for next week, so it's for the 15th, and then save it. At this point, if we do an export PDF, we can set up everything the same as before. We won't change anything, except now I have a footer. Right? It says click the title of any tune to play, and I also have a page number that wants to be in the same spot. So I'm going to move the page number to the bottom right. Okay. And this is where you pick the font that's going to be used for the title page, the table of contents, and the index header text. And it's a fairly limited set of fonts. You have Times Helvetica and Courier, and you have normal bold, oblique, and bold oblique. I'm going to just leave it at Helvetica. And again, this is only used, this has nothing to do with the tunes. This just has to do with the title page, the table of contents, and the index as far as what's used on those pages. And at this point, we're going to click OK. And it does exactly what it did before, except now we're going to get a very different looking PDF tunebook. So here's our tunebook. Here's a title page. It's in Helvetica. It has the title we entered. It has the subtitle we entered. Here's the table of contents with the header that we entered, my table of contents. Here are all the tunes and the pages that those tunes are on. That's going to be followed by all the tunes. And at the very end, there's going to be the index. And then we have the page numbers on the tunes in the lower right corner. The other thing too is that these table of contents and index are interactive. So if we want to go directly to Made Behind the Bar, we just click on it and it takes us to Made Behind the Bar. If we want to go back to the table of contents, click on those arrows, it takes you back to the table of contents. If we want to go, we'll go to Miss McLeod's, we want to go to the index, it takes you to the index. The index is sorted alphabetically, And it does things like put the word the at the end so you don't end up with all the thes in a row, right? It does it by the actual tune name. And because we checked that box in here, it says add playback links to each tune. If we click on these titles now, it will open that tune in the player. And if I play it, it's going to play, fingers crossed, it should play with a vibraphone sound. There's no chords in this, so we should just hear vibraphone. Okay, if we go back to the tune book and pick a different tune and say we'll go to Alexander's, click on it, opens in the player, vibraphone. Now it's going to have, this is going to have the, this has chords, so it's going to have the synth bass for the booms, the bass, and it's going to have the piano for the chicks. And then everything that we talked about last week, as far as the tune trainer, you know, speeding, having the tunes play slowly, changing the instruments and all that is exactly the same. This is no different than any of those tune books I showed you last week. This is a complete, this is a completely interactive tune book. And you can see that that's really not very complicated to do. You know, the key is you put all your tunes in, and we'll go through the, I'll go through the whole process again from scratch with a slightly different set of tunes. Matter of fact, I'll just open up, let's say I had saved some tunes. So let's say I had a bunch of the sleeve lucra sets, the polka sets. So, so here I've got, these are the from Sleeve Notes. These are the 9 most common polkas that you hear from Sleeve Notes. So I've loaded these 9 tunes in, and now I want to make an interactive tune book out of them. I'm just going to go to Export PDF, inject tune book features because it doesn't know yet about title pages. I'll just say polkas, and we'll just have it say table of contents and index. I'll leave this checked, add playback links to each tune. This time I'll change it to a, let's say, accordion for the sound. There's no chords on these, so these values don't really matter. And I will say OK. I'll leave the rest of this alone. So again, it's going to be 1 tune per page, page number on the bottom right, page number on the first page, Helvetica for the title page. Click OK, click OK, generates the PDF. So here's our PDF, sleeve note polkas, table of contents, click on a tune, click on it to play. Now we should get the tune play. I do want to show you one sort of cool option for smaller tune books that can be kind of fun. Let me open up our original set here. So here's our original set, the 4 tunes. If you have a small tune book, so one of the things to notice is that when we opened up this tune book and we clicked on the player, and this is now we're getting to something slightly more advanced, but it's actually kind of nice for very small tune books if you just have a set of tunes and you want to create a PDF from it. So for example, when we clicked on Made Behind the Bar here and we opened it up in the player, we get the 1 tune. You can see there's no additional tunes. Like if we had opened the tune book in the player here, we would have all of the tunes available. But there's an option when creating a tune book, if the tune book's small enough, it can actually put all of the tunes into it can put the links for all the entire tune book into each of the tunes. And that sounds kind of weird, but it'll be more obvious when I actually do it. So if I say inject tunebook features, there's this option here that says playback links contain entire tunebook. And this only works with fairly constrained numbers of tunes, probably 10 tunes or less. And what it'll try to do is now, let's see, we'll change this we'll change this to, let's say, harpsichord. Now when it creates the tune book, and we'll just call that 2. It's got, we didn't change the name back, but these are the tunes. So here are the 4 tunes. Looks very much the same in terms of the PDF, but because we checked that box, and this is a fairly small tune book, and if it can't do it, it'll tell you. It'll actually say the tune book's too big to actually do this. But now when I click this tune, it's going to be a little bit different. Now it has all the tunes. For the entire tune book is now contained in each of the tunes. So this can be a very nice option for smaller tune books. They just have to click any single tune in the tune book. It'll open in that tune. So oh, and you can see they actually have the entire tune book here. So for example, if I click, in this case, I click on Made Behind the Bar, the player will open in Made Behind the Bar, but the other tunes are actually are now actually available for them to go to. So it's almost like it transmitted the entire tune book as a playlist. This is limited by the size of how big a URL can be, which is generally about 4,000 characters, and also limited by what Adobe Acrobat can handle, which is about 2,000 characters. So I just wanted to tease that feature to you. It's really nice if you're transmitting an entire set of tunes in the PDF tune book, because otherwise, to play like each of the tunes, they would have to go to, one by one go to the tune book and say, okay, I want Pete Bradley's, and open it. It would open that one tune, and then they would have to go to, Walsh's number 2 and open that tune. There are cases where having the entire tune book transferred for each tune can be very, 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 very cool. So again, that's an option that's under the inject tunebook features, and it's this one here, playback links contain entire tunebook. Yes, Jeff?
Could you briefly go over the PDF quality for large tune books?
Yeah, so one of the negative things about my system compared to just like printing the tune book out of the browser, like you can also, if you don't care about any of these features, you don't care about table of contents, you don't care about play links, title pages, you could just go to your browser's print feature, and you could print to PDF right from your browser, and you'll get something that looks like this without any of the, it doesn't know how to do breaking up, like putting multiple tunes per page. It doesn't know how to do any of the features we talked about, but it will give you a very nice PDF file. And the difference being is that because this is a program running on my computer, it's able to take the, just to back a little bit, everything that's being done, there's a little bit of technology here. Everything that's being done in this ABC notation is being done using a vector format. It's the description of the curves and the lines used for the notes and the letters. The browser is able to take that description of the curves and the lines and turn them directly into PDF curves and lines. And that makes for a very, very small file, like, just a very small file, because it's not a picture of the music. It's not like a photograph of the music that's being saved in the PDF file. It's actually a description of the curves. The problem is that no one has written a web, so the language this is written in is called JavaScript, and no one has written a JavaScript PDF creator that's able to go directly from the curves and lines that are used for drawing the music into the PDF curves and lines, the vector format. It's called the vector formats. So the technology used in the browser is called SVG, scaled vector graphics, and PDF has its own vector graphics. So when I'm creating the tunebooks, I have to essentially, it's almost like I'm grabbing a screenshot of the notation. And then if you think about, like, if you've ever used photo editing, you know, if you're working in JPEG as your photo format, you have the quality settings, you know, like they generally go from 0 to 1. So 0.7 is pretty good. 0.2 is not so great. So that's literally what's happening in the PDF generation. Is it's taking each of the tunes, it's generating a very high resolution image of that tune, and then it's saving it. It's creating a JPEG of that image, and it's stamping it onto each page of the PDF. So the quality setting that's in this feature here effectively is the same as it sets a value. Actually, if you look at the top of the ABC here, you'll see this PDF quality value. It's exactly the same as JPEG quality. I'm going to set this back to a House of Ireland, and I'm going to edit the title right here. I'm going to say House of Ireland Tunebook. So PDF quality 0.75 is really, really good. And I'll generate that tunebook again at 0.75. And then I'll kind of go to the other end of the scale, and I'll turn it way down. And you can see the difference in the quality of the notation. The text will always be good. And you can see this is really, really good. We can zoom way into this, and it's still really clean. Okay, but this is not a small file. It's about 300K per PDF. So let's see here. So like you can see, okay, so this ended up being about 915 kbytes. When I saved it out of the browser, let's see, I didn't actually save it out of the browser. The browser version might be, you know, 50 kbytes because it doesn't actually have to have the pictures of the tunes. If we go to the other end of the scale, if I change that to something low, and if I actually go into the features here and I change that from high to, let's say, draft, you can see it's changed this number here to 0.4. I'm going to make it even worse. I'm going to make it 0.25 because I really want you to see what happens when that quality gets too low. And we'll generate the PDF again. We end up with a much smaller file. Text is still going to be pretty. But you can see the tunes, and I've turned it way, way down. I would never use this, but you can see that the tunes now are pretty rough. Okay, so that's what it says. And you can see, if you've probably seen this kind of thing with like saving pictures at different quality levels. 0.4, which is what I consider the low, and we're kind of in the weeds here a little bit, but I'll set it, this is the 0.4 is what it would use for the draft quality. And if we do that, I'm doing this mostly so you can see that the draft is pretty good, and I can show you the different sizes. So here we're at draft quality, and it's pretty good. I mean, if you're just using this on the screen, it's good. We have to zoom in quite a bit before we start seeing kind of the roughness on the edges of the notes. But it does make a big difference in the file size. So, so like the original one that we did at high quality, 915 kilobytes. The one at crappy quality, 211 kilobytes. And the one at draft quality is about half the size, 407 kilobytes. Half the size of the high quality one. So it's just it's primarily a way to control the file size. If you're looking at something like the King Street Sessions Tunebook 1000 tunes, you know, that's like 100 megabyte file, you know, and that's a case where, you know, using the draft quality instead of the high quality allows you to produce something that's 100 megabytes or 50 megabytes instead of 200 megabytes. So it primarily just used for scaling the size of the files. And it kind of doesn't really matter for most part until you get to really large sets of tunes. But if you need something to be as small as possible, it's available to you. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and set that back. And go ahead and set that back to 0.75, just the high quality. Okay, I'm going to talk next about some other formats for the PDF export, but before I do that, I want to find out if there are any questions. Okay, hearing none, we shall proceed. All right, so one thing I didn't talk about is I didn't talk about tablature at all, is if you want mandolin tablature, you can just click mandolin tablature or guitar tablature. And now if we do, for example, we'll do mandolin, and I will export the tune book. It stuck mandolin on the end of the name just so they can remind you that's the mandolin version. It'll now create a mandolin version of the same tune book. Nothing special you need to get a mandolin version. You can't have two different, you can't have like guitar and mandolin in the same tune book. It's kind of a global setting for the tune book. I'm going to change this back to House of Ireland and save it this time. All right. So I want to talk about some of the other formats that are available for the export, and then we'll get into some more sort of ABC stuff about how to manipulate the tunes themselves for things like transposition and a whole bunch of other features that are available. But primarily just for tune book production, what we were looking at here with the PDFs, let's see here, let me just go back to, let me go open the original PDF file here. So, this is what I would just consider standard notation. And that's the most commonly, that's what you're going to probably want to do, is standard notation. But there are many other options available for how to get the tunes out of this. And those are, when you do the export PDF, there's this tune layout dropdown. Now I talked about the one tune per page or multiple tunes per page. Multiple tunes per page will just try to fit as many tunes on a page as possible. If it can't fit them, it'll kind of go back to one tune per page. But I want to talk about these incipit and text options. One of the things that people want often is the ability to do just a cheat sheet of the tunes. They don't want, they just want to have like a page that has as many tunes on it as possible and has just like the first line of each tune, so they can remember how they start. And the tool can do that very easily. So instead of picking one tune per page, we just click Node Incipits. And we have some options here. I'll show you we have 1 and 2 column. I'll show you what that means in a minute when I'll bring in a much larger set of tunes so you can kind of see what that would look like. And all I've done is I've just changed from one tune to page to Node Incipits, and I'll go ahead and I will export this PDF. And we get something very different. It looks very much the same, title page, table of contents, but now instead of the individual tunes, we have just the first line of each tune. So this is a really easy way to create sort of a cheat sheet. There are features in the tool that will allow you to change this to be just a couple of measures and to put the tune names on the left and all that. Those are more advanced features that I would probably direct you to look up a thing called the Incipit Builder that's in the tool. But the simplest way to get a set of these, what are called incipits, which I don't know the original source of that word, and I know some people pronounce this incipits, but the idea is that you just want it, it's essentially a way of creating a cheat sheet with just the beginning of the tune. Another option is, matter of fact, let me go ahead. I'm going to open up a much larger set of tunes here, just to show you the usefulness of the incipit export. I'm going to bring in just like 50 reels. So here's 50 reels, and I want to create a sheet, so I'm going to zoom up here. You can just see here's 50 reels, and you can see it was pretty fast rendering 50 reels. When you're editing the tunes, it generally only redraws the tune you're working on, so it's pretty quick. I've got these 50 reels here. I'm going to do, this was old stuff, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to export a PDF of this. I'm going to go ahead and add a title page, say 50 reels. And we'll set this to good quality, sorry, high quality. And we'll just make that a piano for playback. And I'll uncheck that. So now I've told it, you know, I want a title page and all that stuff. And now I'm going to have it do the note in incipits or incipits, and I'm going to change it from 1 column to 2 column. And we'll go ahead and generate that PDF. So here's our 50 reels. Here's a table of contents. We could have left all this off, you know, make a cheat sheet. And now we get this, which is a 2 column version with all of the individual tunes in a very, very concise and compact way. If I didn't want the title page and all that, I could just delete. I could easily just delete all of the title page stuff here from the you know, directly from the ABC, or I could use the PDF feature setup. I could use that, but you can see this stuff is editable too. Now I'll just get it. There won't be a title page. There won't be an index. It'll just be the tunes. And these are exactly like the tune books. If we want to play the Boys of Melon, click on the Boys of Melon, opens in the player. So that's another way of, that's another thing you can very easily produce. Just all you have to do is change, is when you're doing the PDF setup, is just change the, so when you're actually doing the PDF export, is just change the tune layout to note incipits. Another option is, actually, let me go back to the inject, and I'm going to go ahead and, because for this rest of these demos, I don't want a table of contents or index, so I'm just going to delete all that. It tells me that it's not included. Those go away over here. Another option is just the text. Not everybody reads sheet music, but they, you know, if you say ABC, they know what that is. So another option is just ABC text incipits, and what this does is it just takes the first few measures of the tunes and it just puts the letters down. These are very tiny files and very fast to create because they are just text. There is no graphics in these. That file with 50 tunes in it is 38 kilobytes. And so here's our 50 tunes. And again, these work the same way. We could click on Bonnie Kate and the tune opens and plays. So that's another option, are the ABC text incipits. There's options here for whether you want to have the tune book sorted, like, you know, you might have a tune book where all the tunes are in different order. This would sort those text, the names of the tunes so that they would be in the correct order. One other option is complete tunes. So if you want the entire tune instead of just the snippet of it, again, this is going to look very much, you know, so this is like just the ABC notes. It's the whole tune, but you can click on any of these and it would open in the player. They all work the same way. I do want to talk about one option, which is, I'm not going to talk too much about the QR codes. You can read about that in the tool. It can create QR codes for every tune that people can scan with their phones. That's kind of cool. But I want to talk a little bit about Comhaltas ABC or Cultus ABC. If you've ever taken lessons in Ireland, let me bring up the cache. And let me just bring up the notes. And I'm talking about this, particularly in this podcast, I'm sorry, this isn't a podcast, on this workshop, because of the relationship with Cultus. Is if you've ever taken lessons in Ireland or from an Irish teacher, and they've written out the notes on a whiteboard or a blackboard. They use a slightly different, it looks like ABC. They use the letters A, B, C, D, and that kind of thing, but they don't use, for example, any lower, they have no distinction between uppercase and lowercase letters. So, so for example, we have this, I have the ability to just show the note names below. And in Ireland, the note names for like this D they use a different system to represent the second octaves of the notes. And, this is a problem because there are, tens or hundreds of thousands of ABC files that if you were to do those text incipits or the full text output, it would be different from what the students in Ireland want or what their teachers are giving them. So there are features built into the tool specifically to make it possible to put out the tunes with the letters matching the way that the cultus branches want them. In other words, it's able to transform from ABC to what I call cultus blackboard format and back. So just to show you here, I've turned on the note names, which is just another form of tablature in the tool down below the notes here. And there's actually a way in the tool to switch that display. You see, there's no, I clicked on the settings. There's a whole bunch of settings in the tool, and we'll talk maybe a little bit about this if we have more time. But one of the settings is this note name tablature uses cultus style ABC. And if I check that, you'll see now this looks very different. And the letters that are now below the tunes are in the format that they would use in Ireland. So this allows for teachers to very easily take ABC files that they've gotten from places and create handouts for their students in the cultus ABC format rather than the standard ABC format. And for example, if we were to open up our tune book again that we created, you can see now that the text underneath is now in the cultus ABC format. And if I do a PDF of this, I'll just do the full notation for this one. And again, this is, I think, particularly useful for people who are, in Ireland and are taking and using that Irish system. You can see now that the letters that are below the notes in the PDF match the cultus format. And again, this is a very specialized thing, but this was really not possible before a tool like this, where it could automate that transformation for the students. But when you're doing the export PDF and you're using these text incipits, and you want the complete tunes, and you want to create a tune book that has the complete tunes, but you don't want to have it in the standard ABC format, but you want it in the cultus format. If you select text complete tunes cultus ABC, when it does the export, it will transform the ABC from the standard ABC into the cultus format. And now, if we look at these tunes, you can see that they are in the format that they use in Ireland instead of in standard ABC. So I'm showing this because this is a cultus sponsored event, but I did want to sort of show this feature specifically for those teachers in Ireland or who use the system, who use this sort of chalkboard ABC, because it is sufficiently different from the standard ABC that having this kind of automation available for you is it's really very, very powerful. So those are the majority of the export formats. Like I say, there are a couple of others have to do with QR codes. I'll just show you what that means. For example, the notation plus QR code for each tune, it's kind of goofy. uh, what it'll do is it'll make a tune book where you have the notation on a page, and then on the next page, so here it looks exactly the same. But now if we go to the tune, we have the notation for the tune, but now we have on the next page a QR code. And you can scan that QR code with your phone, and it's just like clicking on the title. It'll take you to the tune. So for example, you could have the tune book on your phone as a PDF, and this, you have to kind of bear with me here. So imagine you've got this tune book on your phone, and you got this PDF, and you're like, oh, you don't know the Mary Blacksmith? Oh, let me share it with you. You just go to that page of the PDF and you hold your phone up with the QR code on it. And they take their phone, they point it at your phone, and this is what they get. So it's a way of sharing the tune from the tune book directly. The tune book contains the QR code that allows the tunes to be shared to another device. And for smaller tune books, it's actually possible. So this is a fairly small tune book. When we do the export PDF, we're kind of getting into the fringes of the more common stuff here, but when you're doing the inject PDF tune book features, you probably saw this option that said add a QR code to the end of the PDF. If you check that, and you, by default, it would take all of the tunes and it would create one giant share link, kind of like when we included all the tunes in every link, like when you clicked it, you got all the tunes. This will actually create a QR code that has all the tunes in the tune book. This may be too big for it. We'll see what happens here. And I'll do one tune per page again. And now we'll see if it says, okay, was able to add it. It wasn't too big. Generally, you can do up to about 10 tunes this way. And so we have a tune book now, and at the end of the tune book, there's this gigantic QR code. And that QR code is the tune book. That contains every tune in the tune book. If someone scans that QR code with their phone, they will get all of the tunes in the tune book in one giant playlist. So the tune book actually contains the genetics to be able to recreate the tune book, which is exceedingly cool because someone can click on that. Now they have the entire tune book. And if they go into the editor out of this full screen view, they now have the entire tune book, just like you had. It actually encoded the entire tune book into that QR code. So the PDF tune books, if they're not too big, and that's generally about 10 tunes, have the ability to essentially contain the information, the DNA, to recreate themselves from a QR code. Kind of crazy stuff. But, you know, and again, I'm showing that to you just to kind of show you that, like, there's a lot of possibilities for the sharing side of this in the PDF tune books, even though I would say 99% of the time what people are doing is just one tune per page or multiple tunes per page, that sort of thing. All right, so that's kind of the basics of, I mean, everything I showed you here was, you know, the process that I go through when creating these, the tune books that are on the tune book page. So, you know, if you go to the tune books page, you know, all the tune books I've created here, they were all created using that same process, you know, and the beauty is, you know, if I want to create a tune book, let me go ahead and set this one up again with the title. Okay, so let's say I have this tune book. And okay, so let's say we've already created a standard notation version of it. So now I want to create a mandolin version of it. I just change to mandolin. I do an export. So now I have a mandolin version. And then I want to do a whistle version. I click on whistle and I do export PDF. Now I'll have a whistle version of the tune book, and I can do that for all of these tablature versions of it. So I want to do a guitar version, bouzouki version, tenor banjo version. Very, very easy. That's why when you see the tune book page, there's all these variances, because it literally takes me about 30 seconds to create a new one in a different variant. If I wanted a mandola version, I could change it to mandola tab, and I can export mandola tab, that sort of thing. Dadgad, ukulele. So that's the sort of basics of the tune book creation and export. I hope I've conveyed that it's not difficult, and it's really not technical. It's mostly a matter of adding the tunes you want to the work area, just doing a one-time setup of the inject PDF tunebook features to set up the title page and table of contents and all that. And then it's just a matter of exporting, which format you want it out. And then you can change the, tablature and all that, and doing multiple versions. We have got a little bit of time, and I'm more than happy to go as long as anybody wants here. I feel like we've just covered the basics, and I do want to talk a little bit about some of the more advanced features for things like, how do I do accordion versions, or how do I do dulcimer versions, and that sort of thing. That's a little bit more involved. Not hard, but just a little bit, there's just like a couple more steps involved. But before I do that, I do want to find out if there's any questions I can answer. Okay, all good. Okay, I do want to talk about a couple more features, really easy stuff that's available right here on the main interface. When you're actually editing these tunes, I've provided the ability to sort of grab what I call snapshots. And snapshots are really handy. They are essentially they're kind of like doing a select all and copy, and then saving that version off and kind of putting it on a shelf. And then if you ever want to say, you know what, I want to go back to where I started, you can very easily get back to that point. And the way you do that is you just click snapshot, and it'll save a snapshot of the tunes. And the snapshots actually, so for example, if I had gone in here and I had deleted a bunch of stuff, and I had deleted some, I'd made some changes here, and I've completely screwed it up, and I've changed the title to Alexander's, dog, and I'm like, oh, I need to get back to where I was. I can just hit restore, and it'll say restore the contents of the editor with a snapshot. And now we're back to where we were. Literally this morning, I added the ability, there's now 4 snapshots available. So if you just click snapshot, it'll take a snapshot. I have 4 slots. Snapshot, just click, it'll just go into slot 1. Shift click, it goes into slot 2. Alt click, it goes into slot 3. And shift alt click, it goes into slot 4. So now you can grab 4 different snapshots and get back to them at any time. But for the most part, you can just click snapshot, it grabs it into slot 1, and you're good to go. One of the nice things about the snapshots is that they live beyond they live even after you've stopped using the tool. So for example, if I reload the page, I've lost all my work. What you'll find is under the add dialog, there'll be if it knows that there's a snapshot, any snapshot available, it'll put up this button. You can click on restore from snapshot. It'll say restore for the editor from snapshot. You say yes. And now we're back to where we were. So the snapshots live, the snapshots are saved in your browser, they're associated with the tool, and they're very easy to get back to. There's actually a feature, if you're worried about losing your work, there's a feature under settings, which is save an auto snapshot on browser tab closer reload. This makes it even easier to never lose your work. So if that's set, I don't even have to, it's kind of a safety valve. So let's say I'm sitting here and I've made some changes. I've made this to Alexander's hornpipe, and I've changed this to, Mary Blacksmith reel. And I'm not even going to grab a snapshot. I'm just going to reload the page. When the tool when the tool was told that essentially, hey, we're going away, it automatically now saved a snapshot for us. So if I go into add, you'll see it says restore from auto snapshot. And now we just got back all of our work for you. This is something you have to opt into. So under settings, you have to check this one box, says save an auto snapshot on browser tab closer reload. By default, it's not turned on. This feature is only available on desktop browsers because mobile browsers don't tell me when the tab is being closed or the browser is being closed. Only it's just kind of a known issue with mobile browsers. So that's a nice way if you're working, if you're about to, for example, I'm going to show you how to use the transpose feature, and it might be that you're just like, well, I don't, I'm not sure if. How can I describe this? So let's say I just want to have the version I had before I transposed everything. So I'm going to grab, for example, I'm going to grab a snapshot right now of where I'm at, and now I'm going to show you how to transpose tunes. So there's several different ways of transposing tunes in the tool, but the easiest way is we can just click in any tune. So if I wanted, here's the Merry Blacksmith, and the Merry Blacksmith is in the key of D. And if I wanted it to be in the key of G, I could click transpose up. So each time I click it, it goes up a semitone. And now it's in the key of G. If I want to transpose it back down, I can just click transpose down. I like to use modifier keys for other features. So if you actually hover over any feature in the tool, you'll get a tooltip, and it's kind of hard to read, but what it says is it says transposes the selected tunes down one semitone, shift click transposes down one full step, alt click transposes down one octave. So if I'm in D and I wanted to get to C, I could just hold down my shift key on the keyboard and click transpose down, and now I don't have to hit the button twice. Same thing for up. I could do up to go to D, hold down the shift key, and I'll be in E, and then we'll do it one time, we'll go into F, and then hold it down, go to G. If I wanted to take the whole thing, let's say down an octave at this point, I can hold down the Alt key, hit transpose down, it'll go down an octave. Hold the Alt key down, hit transpose up, it'll go up an octave. I can come back down, semitone. So that's how the transpose buttons work. If you want to transpose more than one tune, you can just select, as long as you have a selection across more than one tune, whatever's in the selected region. So now we have Merry Blacksmith, Made Behind the Bar, we transpose, they will both be transposed. So now we've gone from D to E for just those two tunes. Notice the Miss McClouds was not transposed. So a common use for the snapshot might be, okay, well, here we got our tunes, first two are in D, last one's in G. Well, grab a snapshot, we'll go ahead and transpose those two tunes. All I have to do is just make sure I have a selection in those two tunes. It tells it that's what I want to change. We'll transpose those two tunes up to E. Miss McClouds is still in G. And you're like, oh, I didn't really need to do that. I can just now click restore. And now we'll be back to where we were with them back in D. So I use these a lot for, just kind of like if I'm about to do something, if I'm about to do a lot of, make a lot of changes at once, and I want to kind of easily I don't want to have to save the file, make the changes, reload the file. This is just a really quick and easy way of grabbing up to 4 different, taking a version of the tune and putting it on the shelf and then easily getting it back later. So that's how you transpose tunes. The next thing I do want to talk about is, and just to give you a sense of, and we're not going to have time to do this today unless you want to stick around for another hour or two, is take a look at the features that are on this More Tools dialog. And these are kind of a wide range of features of the tool. Some of these are specific for particular instruments, and some of these are things to make it easier for you to figure out, for example, what instrument you want to play a tune with. Some of them are very handy for example, if you have a version of a tune, let me clear this out here and bring in my sample tunes, which all have chords. So you'll see like my 3 sample tunes, they all have chords. But let's say I don't want those chords. Well, I mean, I could manually go into and edit. I could say, oh, I'm going to delete that D, and I'm going to delete this G. You know, I mean, I could do it manually, but far easier is you go to More Tools, and the tool will detect if there are any chords anywhere in the work area. And if there are, it'll give you a couple of options. One is you can just hide them. And the hiding, the chords, if you see, like, if you look over here in the ABC, the chords are still there, but they're not being shown in the notation. And this can be handy if you just want to create a PDF file of the tunes without the chord and without the chords showing up. You know, so that's kind of a special use case, but you can hide them without deleting them. But if you just want to completely strip them out, you just hit strip chords. And now it's actually gone and modified all of the ABC to get rid of every chord that's in the ABC. And this is another case where doing a snapshot can be very handy. So for example, I'll add those tunes back. They all have chords in them. Now I'm going to remove the chords. Maybe I grab a snapshot before I do that. And then I go into More Tools, strip chords. Okay, they're gone. I could generate a PDF, you know, and then I'm like, okay, I actually do want the chords. I'll just hit restore. And now we get the chords back. Okay, so again, a great case for using snapshots. There are a lot of features on this, and again, I would refer you to the user's guide for a lot of them, because some of them are very, very sort of specialized, and several of them really do are really based on the idea that you do understand a fair bit about ABC as far as how can I describe it? Like just about some of the ABC features, but some of these are actually quite useful without knowing anything about ABC. And these are these tablature injectors. For example, if you wanted to create a BC box tab version of this, so we have sort of the built-in string instrument tablatures like mandolin and guitar and that sort of thing, plus whistle, but we don't have any ability to put in tablature for like an accordion. So I've developed a whole bunch of these, what I call tablature injectors. And these actually change the ABC. They figure out what the note is. And then they understand how the instrument works. They understand the buttons on a BC box. They know which buttons are on which rows, and they know which notes are on the in and the out. And what'll happen is when I click Inject BC Box tab, is it will actually modify the ABC, and it will put a whole bunch of additional stuff in here. This is using a concept in ABC called text annotation, where it now analyzes the ABC, and it'll give you the button number and the direction and which row to play those notes on. So and it just does that for you. It does that completely automatically for you. And now if I were to export a PDF of this version, this is how I create my accordion versions. So now we have all of the button box tablature built into the exported file. And again, here you can see it's done a lot of changes to the ABC. Things like the highlighting still work. It'll still show you, like, you can see that E and the 4. These are all kind of associated. And again, this is actually, you do have to understand how ABC works to understand this. But it's actually changed ABC. So maybe we want to get back. We want to do a concertina version now. I'll just do a restore. Gets us back to nice clean slate, none of the tablature. Go to More Tools, and this time I'll inject Angle Concertina tab. And it's analyzed the tunes, and it's, you know, this is a different system of tablature than the accordion. It's which side of the instrument, which button in which direction. We'll restore again. Same thing for like fiddle fingerings. When we use the mandolin tab, this is which string and which fret. But of course, a violin doesn't have frets. But teachers were asking. They said, "Well, we'd like to be able to. We'd like to have the ability to do which finger, the student should use. Even if it doesn't tell them, which of the multiple possibilities are, at least this will give them a hint that, oh, it's the first finger, second finger. So there's an option under more tools that's just inject finger fingerings, inject fiddle fingerings, which will inject a number of options. So it can be just which finger number, which string, and do you want them next to each other, over, you could have the number over the name over the number. We'll just say string name and fiddle finger number. And now what we get is which string and which finger to use. And there's a whole bunch of options there. So that's a common one that teachers have asked for, is the fiddle fingerings. There are others, some more exotic ones. This was one of the very earliest requests for bamboo flute tab. This is for Chinese flutes that are in particular keys. They use a different system. So their flutes are in like the key of G, and then they use something that looks like this, where they have, and it's kind of like your Jianpu stuff, where it shows the, it's the scale degree, and then it uses a dot below for the octave, lower octave, and a dot above for the higher octave. It can inject Jianpu for several different formats of several different tunings of bamboo flutes. I will restore again. You can see the usefulness of the restore here. And this goes on and on and on. So there's shaped notes. If you want to have, if you're into solfege, which is the, do, re, mi stuff, there's multiple options for, putting solfege in. Like we could do what's called fixed solfege. And now it's actually going to put the note names using do, re, mi, fa, sol, la below the notes in the key of the, of the particular tune. It can be either the key of the tune, or it could be based on the key of C. There's all kinds of different options. But again, all of those kinds of things live in the under the Smart Tools menu. All kinds of features here, and you can use them or not. As a matter of fact, if you know that, like, I don't care about any of this tablature injection, there's a selector up here that lets you hide them. You can just say, I don't care about any of the tablature injectors. Okay, and it will just, you'll never see them. Okay, so just, that is, you have the control over how cluttered you want this dialogue to be. I'll probably leave you with one last example here of a feature that is really kind of handy to use, which is the MIDI Instrument Explorer. And this is kind of cool. What it'll do is, so for example, let's say I'm working on a tune, and I'll do it in this case. Let's say I'm just working on one tune, and I'll show you how to do this for multiple tunes. But let's say I'm working on a tune, let's say Alexander's Hornpipe. And I want to know, like, if I play this tune, it's going to be piano, and I think it uses a synthesized bass. But I'm interested in, because when we set up the PDF here, we told it what instruments we wanted to play the tunes in. But it's kind of, short of like manually changing the numbers for the instruments and then playing it, and then changing the number for the instrument and playing it, it's kind of hard to figure out when you have, I think there's almost 1,000 instruments available in the tool now, because there's 7 sound fonts, and each one is over 128, like almost 140 instruments per sound font. I wanted there to be a way for you to easily be able to try out different instruments for a tune. And that's a feature. There's a whole bunch of things down here at the bottom called explorers. And they are sort of these interactive players that expose a particular feature of the tune, whether it be the instruments being used to play, or we didn't talk about swing, but the tool has the ability to change, like, for example, the amount of swing on hornpipes, or in any tune really. How you want the grace notes, if you're doing ornamentation, how you want them to sound, how you want rolls to sound. But the one that's really fun is just this MIDI Instrument Explorer. And it looks like the player, and it acts like the player. You can just play the tune. But then it puts down at the bottom all of the parameters that are used for playing. So for example, this is the current sound font is fluid. It's using acoustic grand piano for the melody, synth bass for the bass, and acoustic piano for the chords. And here are the volumes. Let's say I'm like, well, I really want to know what that sounds like with a vibraphone. So I can just change that to vibraphone. And then I have to click reload tune with changed instruments and volumes. This just kind of resets the player. And now if we play, we'll get vibraphone. If I wanted to change that bass to like more of a acoustic bass, I can just change it, play it. Or change the chords to like maybe acoustic guitar. I think, well, that seems a bit loud, so we'll maybe change the volume of the chords. And I say, like, okay, that sounds pretty good. I like that. You can click this button that says inject instruments and volumes into the ABC. It'll take all the settings that we set up here. And now, if you look, it's actually added, it's actually changed the ABC, and it's stuck the MIDI. Again, this is, you have to kind of know ABC about this, but it's actually stuck what's required. So that now when that tune plays just in the player or goes into PDF, it'll be exactly what we said in the Explorer. And if we wanted to do that for an entire tune book, so I'll restore again because we still have that snapshot around, very handy. Go to More Tools, MIDI Instrument Explorer. We'll say vibraphone. We'll say acoustic bass. Again, we'll say maybe steel guitar. We'll change the volume to 32. I'll reload it, play it. And now if I want to do all the tunes in the tune book, I can just click that box, inject all tunes. And now all of the tunes in the tune book will have that information in them. And so now if I play it, well, each tune should sound that way. So it's a very easy way, if you have a tune book, to force the tunes to play with a particular sound. There's sort of like, you can have the you can actually have the tunes have actually in them the instruments that are going to be used for the tunes, and then you can have at the tune book level, you can have it actually override. You can actually have it override those values as well. So there's a lot of control in terms of what instruments use for playback. And again, this is, I'm going to refer you back to the user's guide because this is not going to say a fairly complex subject, but it's a very powerful. There's a lot of options there. But the easiest way really is to just use that MIDI Instrument Explorer to sort of play around with the instruments that you like, and they will be stuck in the tunes for you. I'll show you just one more of the Explorers. Oh, before I do that, let me show you one other feature here. You can sort the tunes. So I'm going to open up a bunch of tunes here. These are from the O'Flaherty's workshop. So we have a whole bunch of tunes here, and they're just kind of all over the board. They're a mix of reels and jigs. I think there's a slide in there, a slip jig. And let's say we wanted to sort these tunes by style or by meter. There is an option under More Tools, which is Sort by Tag. And you have a whole bunch of sorting options here. So I'm going to go ahead and just sort these by meter. And now it will sort those tunes. It'll put the reels at the top, and then the hornpipes, and then the jigs, and I think it did the slip jigs, and then anything like that for that. So it's able to sort the tunes by style. If we wanted to sort them by key, I'm sorry, by, yeah, by key. We could sort them by key. And so now it'll put, it all goes by what's in the K tag. So here's the A tunes, the B tunes, here's the D tunes. A lot of D tunes, and then the G tunes, that sort of thing. So there's some really nice sorting options available. So that's under sort by tag. And let's see, two last things I want to show you. One is the oh, actually, there's a few things here. Let me show you the Reverb Explorer, kind of out of order here. The tool has some really nice reverb features, and the reverb is actually something that gets described into the ABC if you want to override the defaults. This allows you to change what the reverb is used for a tune. So like by default, the tool will just use this chamber sound. But you can try it with different, if you want to just, what's that sound like in a church? And how, let's say we want it to be, how much of the original sound and how much of the reverb sound do we want? And now we can try to see what it sounds like in a church. And when you're all done with it, you can then, just like we did with the instruments, you can inject that into the tune, and then that tune will always play with that particular reverb, which is kind of cool. Okay, this will be the, I promise this will be the last feature because we're going pretty late here. But I do want to show, this is a fairly recent addition, and it's associated with bagpipes. And one of the features that sometimes people want, and this oftentimes has to do with instruments like bagpipes that sit on a particular key, like the bagpipes, Scottish bagpipe, sack pipas, that kind of thing. They all tend to sit on a particular key, which is the key of the drone. And that key on Scottish pipes is usually written in the notation as an A, even though it doesn't sound as an A. It depends on the style of the pipe. But let's say we have all these tunes. I'm going to open up the O'Flaherty's book again, just the way the original one. We have all these tunes, and they're all different keys: key of D, key of A, key of G. You know, and they actually wrote this where it says like key of D. They actually wrote that into the ABC, like as a description. So after we change the key, it'll still stay key of D because that's actually some text that the original author of this put into it. But let's say I wanted to transpose all of these tunes to the key of A. Now, previously, what you would have had to have done is you'd have to go into My Darling Asleep and then, you know, click, click, click until you got to A. Okay, that one's an A, and then we go to Mist on the Mountain, and it's already in A Dorian, so it's okay. And then Bird on the Bush is in G, and so we would have to go up, up, and that puts it in A. Well, that's not a lot of fun to do if you've got 100 tunes. So I added a feature so that you could automatically transpose all of the tunes in a tune book or a single tune to a particular key. So in the simplest case, let's say we just want to take My Darling Asleep. We're working on My Darling Asleep, and we say, that's in D, and I really want it to be in G. You could go to More Tools, and then there's Transpose to Key. And you just pick the key you want it to be in. And the idea is that it's only going to change sort of the root. So if it's D major, D minor, D Dorian, D mixed, doesn't care. It's going to change it to, if we leave that at A, it'll change it to A major, A minor, A Dorian. It leaves the mode the same. It just changes the root key. Say A, we'll just say okay. Okay, so now My Darling Asleep is now in A. Okay, so, but let's say I wanted all the tunes to be in A. So that was that one tune. I can say More Tools, Transpose to Key, pick my key, and say Transpose all tunes. And now all of the tunes are in the key of A. Okay, so that's pretty cool. Now, What's interesting about that is where this comes into play is on instruments that are, I can imagine someone who might have a lot of fun with this. If, for example, if they had a D melodeon or a G melodeon, single row melodeon, and they just wanted to like have all, they when they would play them on that instrument, they would all sit on that scale, and they wouldn't be able to play with other people, but at least they would have the tunes in a way that works well on their instrument. But where it's really interesting is when you start getting into some of the bagpipe features. And now we are seriously into the weeds here, but I'm sure there's some crossover between the cultist world and the Scottish piping world. But I want to show you, now that I've got all these tunes all in the same key of A, there is a fairly recent feature called inject bagpipe sounds. And the way this works is I've got sounds and understanding of a lot of different sets of bagpipes. Great Highland pipes in all of the common tunings from 440, 454, which I only learned about 3 days ago, which is apparently really common on practice chanters, and small pipes and suck pipe and uilleann pipes. But I'm going to just do border pipes in A. And when I do this, it's going to actually modify the ABC, turn it into a bagpipe tune. It's going to put drones behind it and hide those drones from the ABC. So they're actually in the ABC, but you can't see them because there's a way to actually hide the voice for it. And now if I play those tunes, they're going to be played all in A, using a Highland bagpipe melody and sitting on Highland bagpipe drones. But the backing will still work, so we'll still have the piano backing. Like, well, I don't like the piano backing. Back to more tools, strip chords. That gets rid of the chords. Now we just have pure bagpipe version. So for example, if I go to Bird on the Bush. Right. And if I create a PDF of this, these take a little longer because there's a lot more ABC being processed here. What you'll see is we end up with a PDF tune book for the O'Flaherty's retreat tunes. They look just like normal, but now when we click on them, we now have bagpipes in A with the tune in A and the drone in A. Go back to a different one. Let's try the Banshee. So we have the Banshee in A. I don't know if you noticed, but it's folded the tune into the range of the Highland bagpipe chanter, because the Highland bagpipe chanter only goes from G to high A. So any notes that are beyond that range get folded into the range of the instrument. That folding is completely optional. For example, if I go ahead, I'll go through the whole process one last time, and then we'll probably call it a day. I'm going to go ahead and open up the retreat tunes again. Here's the original. So we're starting from scratch, just a bunch of tunes. Going to take them, transpose them to A. They're now all in A. Inject bagpipe sounds, and I'm going to tell it not to fold the range of the tunes. And what you end up with is something that is, and I'm going to strip the chords. I'm kind of doing this a little fast, and because I'm trying to give a sort of a sense for the power and flexibility of this tool when you really get into it. It's got some it's evolved in such a way that you can really do some wild stuff very easily. We have all the tunes in A. We've injected the bagpipes into them. We haven't changed the range of them. Now when I play these, they're going to be outside the range of the Highland pipes, but they're in terms of the notation. But again, this is a virtual world, so you know, maybe this is a case we don't really care. We just want it to sound nice. Like and you know, the real pipes would never go that low, but hey, you know, maybe this is something you want. A few more here. So here's Bird in the Bush in A. So anyway, I think that's probably enough. uh, Again, the last half hour has been about sort of going deep into the weeds to show you that, you know, for the most part, you can almost, you may never need to get into the Smart Tools dialog here, but there are some incredibly cool features here that, that I would encourage you to explore. And all of this is detailed in excruciating detail in the user's guide. And if you notice, all I did was click on the question mark. Anything you have a question mark on in the tool will take you directly to that section in the user's guide, which I tried printing it out as a PDF. It's 275 pages. And I don't know how many videos are in it, but there's quite a few. This goes through every single feature in the tool in excruciating depth. And hopefully you'll find your answer there. Also, let's see here. If you go to the very end of the, user's guide table of contents, there's this demo videos and tutorials. And this will take you to my YouTube channel for the tool, where there are now 348 videos of showing all of the features of the tool. Since, you know, it's almost one video per day that I've put together since I started this thing, as I've developed the tool, as I've developed the new features to it. You know, obviously it's been quite a wild ride, you know, doing all of this, and things have moved very fast. And I know some people are probably annoyed because I'm posting almost every day some new major feature, but it's been very exciting. I think a lot of these things I'm doing have never really been done before, and certainly not on a web-based tool, and certainly not with the focus on traditional Irish and now Scottish music to produce something that both looks good, is easy to use, and really, I think, sounds really, really nice. And you know, we touched on maybe, you know, 20% of what's possible with the tool today. You know, we didn't talk about exporting. You know, for example, you can export all the tunes in various formats. You could, for example, get a tune book that has 200 tunes, and you could export all of the tunes in MP3 format as individual files, and then you could send those MP3 files out to your friends. Matter of fact, you could even like send out slowed down versions. You know, if I wanted slowed down versions of all of the tunes in the O'Flaherty's tune book, I could say, oh, I want these at 70% speed, and then I could export, and it's going to walk through those tunes, and it will now export an MP3 file for each of those individually. And you'd end up with files that you could put, you know, bring into the music app on your phone, or you could email it to somebody. So I ended that a little early there, so it doesn't have to finish. Or you could save out all of the, you know, if you wanted to save out all of the images, you know, just the images for the tunes as pictures, because you wanted to put them on a website. The tool can do that from the export all tunes. So again, a very broad set of features that cover everything from the simplest use cases that we started with, you know, taking 5 or 10 tunes from your, you know, from your session, you know, the ones that you play at your session every week, and to doing some truly way out of the box kind of things, all built on essentially the same sharing system. And we didn't even talk about sharing in this. I could do a whole seminar just about the sharing, about how those PDF hyperlinks actually get created, how you can create those and send them around to people. That's almost like a whole seminar on its own. So anyway, I think we've gone now 2.5 hours. I could talk for another 2 hours, but I think this would probably be a good point to wrap things up. I just want to, before we finish, I just want to know if there's any questions or requests you might have before we call it a day.
No, I'm still with you, Michael.
Awesome. Ken, I really appreciate you being there.
Oh yeah. No, I always pick things up from you, and I picked up quite a lot today. More at the beginning than at the end, of course. But
Yeah, yeah. Well, that was kind of deliberate. I was kind of going for shock and awe there and toward the
or
end.
yeah, but no, I use it more all the time.
Yeah, awesome. That's great. Sarah, before we call it a day, do you have any comments or questions? And
No, I just sent in the chat. I was already messing with it. So
awesome.
yeah.
Great. All right. Well, thank you again. Let's see. I do want to again thank Cultus San Diego, the Crewberry Coogan chapter for sponsoring this event, and you know, we'll probably do more of these in the future, either under the Comhaltus, I keep thinking Comhaltus, under the Cultus banner, or I often do these on my own for specific features or audiences. So, you know, when I do that, I generally post about that on Facebook. So look for that. And I think you may both already be members of the Facebook group. If you're, I'm just going to show people here. If you're interested in the tool, you can go to. I have a group for the tool, this Michael Eskin's ABC Transcription Tools group, and that's where I post almost daily something I'm working on, either a demo video or a technique that you can use, or some new feature. Perhaps there's a new instrument available, that kind of thing. This is where you can kind of be sure to get the latest about the goings on with the tool and any events that might be happening like this in the future. So with that, thank you everyone, and look forward to next time we have some tunes together.
Sounds good, Michael. Thanks again.
Okay, take care, Ken. Take care, Sarah.